I think that that's been so foundational to make sure that you are mindful of what those, who are you really? What do you hold dear? And how do you stay in alignment with that always? Because it is so easy. I feel like, especially uh, as a woman, as a mother, like you're everyone else's needs, right? And then how do you come back to what's important to me? And like, how can I make sure that I have that compass, that North Star to be able to come back to that? And so I've been so grateful for Ami's encouragement to that constantly. And I feel like it's something that I've fallen back on a lot with like the making sure I'm creating space to reflect and vision and process. And if I am feeling like this sense of something's not quite right. What is going on here, and how do I move back to stay on track towards where I want to be? Because it's so easy to just sort of be this leaf in the wind, like just going along with what people ask of you and tell you to do, and what people think who you are, and what you're supposed to be doing in your work or otherwise. But yeah, if you can kind of what matters my perspective here, and this is my life. So interestingly, I feel like making wellness a part of my job forced me to prioritize it because that was just where I was starting from, right? Is like kind of being a workaholic, just way over identifying the physician self as who I was. Like that was my identity. And so I the only way for me to break out of that and like heal myself and get right, honestly, was okay, well, let me just pocket it into the identity that I'm already sort of all in on. And then it sort of helped me, I feel like, reset. But yeah, being able to have the protected time to be thinking about different strategies to support the wellness of my colleagues, but also myself, and realize like I don't want to be a fraud. I want to I want to be, like walking the talk. And so I feel like that having that support and the professional development to be able to do that was really good. Having kindred spirits like Ami and others like mentors in this space to really just help me remember to be who I am and live authentically, be able to have embrace vulnerability and find connection and human you know times. Like I have so appreciated the coffee dates that Ami and I have, and we're just like it just helps me kind of pause and remember like these are the things that matter in life, and not get so caught up. And I think just doing the basics too, like getting into therapy on a regular basis, getting out of my own crazy thoughts and be able to sort of reset, get perspective, and realizing that my well-being is non-negotiable, that I actually need to make sure that I set aside time for sleep and physical activity and things like that, because I just kept cutting corners with that, and my health was suffering from it. So I think just recentering myself in my life and continuing to come back to that regularly through practices of like processing, connecting, writing, all of those strategies have been really crucial for me to stay honest in this work.
Maybe just before Amish shares, I'm just curious, how did your workplace react to you coming into it with this very different kind of attitude, mindset? Were they receptive to that, or did you get some resistance or tension? Because I'm sure that also meant you saying no to some things, which you used
Mm.
to say yes to.
Yes. Well, what's funny is I feel like people kind of stopped asking me to do things because they're like, she's just going to keep saying yes. Like, we're not evil. We're not going to just keep
Oh,
piling
yeah.
it on. So, interestingly, I feel like one of the big pivots for me was when I had sort of applied for a role in our department that I didn't end up getting. And I was like amazed. I was like, but I've done so much for you all. But I think what it came down to is they're like, Julie, how? How would you do this thing? And so it just made me realize like, oh my God, like I need to like really, really tap back how much I'm doing, go from the 150% to maybe 100% of, just that effort. And so if anything, I feel like my workplace was very supportive of it. And I feel like the fact that I've been in these wellness roles, like people kind of get it that I'm going to be advocating for these things. And if anything, hopefully they believe in me more and think that I'm, again, having that alignment with what I sort of expect of others and challenge others to do for their own well-being, that I am demonstrating that. So I'm grateful that I've had really supportive colleagues in leadership to keep me on the right path.
Yeah, I must admit, if your colleagues say to you, you have to, or they stop giving you things to do, that's a good sign as well. Like maybe you've done enough.
I feel like if anything, the the best way that I've been able to show up for people now as a wellness leader is by like actually doing the work myself. And people are like, you seem happier now. You seem more like you're kind of like doing all of the you're in better balance. And I think that that is sometimes the most powerful thing, to help other people feel like I can do that. I can create the life that I want and have that sort of professional fulfillment, and that joy. And so I think that's been a lot of it, is like modeling, the ability and the accessibility of joy in medicine, that we can do hard things with help, advocating for people to kind of ask for what they need, and also advocating within our institutional systems to do that. I think we had like a huge primary care redesign, um, that happened over the last several years. Kind of getting back to what I was talking about with like the refill request after hours, the patient, calling in with chest pain during my workday. Like we actually started figuring out how we could offload these things so that physicians were not feeling as burdened to hold all of that. So really kind of creating a much stronger, more robust, like team-based care approach in primary care has been just huge. The fact that I can now go work on the ward service and focus on my critically ill patients and not have to like chase after my like clinic inbox, that I know that we now have an NP who is hired to help provide this inbox coverage, or that I can go on vacation now and I don't have to beg a colleague to cover me because we have, systems in place to actually do that. So just really being able to assemble that team of support so that we can continue to do the hard, really professionally satisfying work, and everybody's sort of top of license and doing their part, to deliver excellent care. I think that has been so foundational to supporting people's well-being. Honestly, I feel like the younger folks are better at advocating for themselves, and I think a lot of us are. So if anything, they are already are, halfway there. So I think just but reminding them, ask for what you need. And just had this conversation in our compassion course the other day, is remember that you are more than just the white coat, and to uh, remember your identity and what matters to you, what your passions are, and stay true to that, because that is what is going to give you the staying power for the long term. And just recognizing like we are imperfect human beings, and that's okay. We have to fight the perfectionism, the everything needs to be just right. Because that is what fuels more suffering and emotional distress. So really just encouraging people to embrace their imperfections and be vulnerable with trusted folks so that they can continue to show up authentically. And yeah.